The Longbox Crusade presents FanFilmFridays. Hello and welcome to another Fan Film Fridays. I am your host, Clinton Robinson, down here in Longbox Crusade basement. And you'll never guess, folks, I have been entertained for the last hour and a half by the most wonderful magic act ever. And it was put on by none other than Laurel. She has been enjoying her new role as official Longbox Crusade Entertainment Director. And she just had to come down and show me her new magic act, and I've loved it. David Copperfield's got nothing on this. Penn and Teller got nothing on this. That kid down on the sidewalk that, does three-card Monty, he's got nothing on this. Laurel is going to go entertain the guys in a little while, and then probably shoot straight off to Vegas. Am I wrong here, Laurel?
Well, the entertainment director might be pushing it a little bit. I think I already have enough jobs. This was just for your entertainment.
See, look at that. I'm special, folks. I got the good entertainment.
Yeah, well, it all started when I was a kid. I had those little magic things that you could buy from the store. Did magic tricks for my friends. It all started then.
See, the closest thing to something magical I bought from the store was those little capsules that when you soak them in water, they turn into dinosaurs.
I don't even know if mine were bought or inherited, actually. They're pretty old.
Oh. Well, Laurel, I'm glad you came down here to show me some magic. And, folks, Laurel showed me even something more magical than her act, because this time around, Laurel had a fan film for me, because I pitched it out there. I was like, hey, Laurel, you want to talk some fan films? And she's like, sure, why not? And I was like, hey, do you like this one? And she's like, no. And I was like, hey, you want to watch this one? She's like, I've never seen what that's from. And I'm like, well, do you like, Batman anymore? And she's like, ooh, that guy, never.
Oh.
Okay, so maybe I'm exaggerating it just a tiny bit.
Just a little. I did want to do another character because we've done the two Batmans and we did, let's see, Barda, right? So it was like, okay, let's do another different character.
Yes, and speaking of Barda in Suburbia, you pitched me something from the same studio.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yes, it is. Folks, this time around, if you haven't checked the show notes, which I'm still not sure why anybody is listening to this without at least looking at the title of the episode, Laurel pitched me Zatanna. That's just it. They just plainly called it Zatanna.
Yeah, well, it was something. There were several. I was looking up female leads, for fan films, and there's several different I call her Zatanna. Is it Zatanna or Zatanna?
Yes.
Either or. Okay. Well, I looked her up, and there was some really sad, dreary ones where she's obsessed with rescuing her father, who's in eternal torment, and it was just no, I wanted something a little perkier than that. Why should people put misery in their day? We want something upbeat. So then I came across this one, and I'm like, oh, this is good. It's got some humor and stuff in it. It's really entertaining. So I pitched this one to you instead.
And I'm glad you did. Okay, folks. So, Zatanna is a fan film by Chris R. Notaro. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. And the more I look at it, the more I am curious that it might actually be a pun because it really looks like you could say it not real.
Yeah, not real.
Yeah, as in, this is not my real name.
I would never pick that up either. I guess I'm just slow.
Yeah. This is what happens when I sit here and just stare at that name for hours. Well, maybe not hours, but Mr. Chris Guy, if you are listening to this, please write in and let us know how to say this name. And let us know if it is, for a fact, real, because I'm just curious now. Anyway, it is by Chris R. Not Real and Blinky Productions. It was posted to the Blinky 500 YouTube page back in July of 2019. It stars Mariah Malson as Zatanna, Heath Harper as John Constantine, Della Atherton. I had to make sure that was two L's and not an I and an L. I need new glasses. Della Atherton as Peyton Riley, Eric Black as Romeo, and Edward Casper as a street thug. This was goodness me. I have to actually talk correctly. This was directed by Chris R. Notaro. The film runs just a tiny fraction under 11 minutes in length and currently sports slightly over 30,000 views. Not too shabby. But before we dive in, this is our first time covering a couple of these characters on here. So, Laurel, do you have any history or knowledge on Zatanna and John Constantine?
Yes, sometimes they popped up in books I'm reading. I didn't necessarily know, have deep knowledge, but I did make some explanations of who they are briefly here. I will say I jumped off on how to write this from Wikipedia, so here we go. Zatanna is a magician published by DC Comics who first appeared in Hawkman number 4 in 1964. She is the daughter of renowned magician Zatanna. Widely recognized for her exceptional skills as a professional illusionist, she captivates audiences with her mesmerizing performances with both stage and actual magic. She casts her spells by speaking backwards. In addition to her stage persona, Zatanna assumes the mantle of a mystic superhero. At one time, a young Bruce Wayne gained some training under her father, Zatanna, and formed an attachment with Zatanna. She also had a brief relationship with occultist John Constantine and been a teammate with him in Justice League Dark. John Constantine himself is a working-class warlock, occult detective, and con man from Liverpool, first appearing in Swamp Thing number 37 in 1985, but best known for his own comic Hellblazer. He is known for his endless cynicism, deadpan wit, ruthless cunning, and constant chain-smoking, but he is driven by a desire to do some good in his life. And that is our stars. I'm going to reserve the blurb on our mystery villain until the end.
Okay. All right, folks. So with that in mind, this is where you will check the show notes because, God, please check the show notes. I don't know why I'm sounding so pathetic. I plead with you every episode to check the show notes and watch these films. And I assume all of you do because you're all awesome. So check the show notes, find the link to this film, watch it. It'll take, 10, 11 minutes out of your day. And then you can come back, listen to Laurel and I spill our guts about this entire thing. And, it's not just because we're going to spoil everything, but it's more fun when everybody's on the same page and knows exactly what we're talking about. So this is where we will take a brief audio break, and you can come back and listen to us gush all about this.
She stands vigilant, stoic, gazing out into the city like an ever-watchful guardian. Silent, yet poised, she remains...
What are you doing?
Nothing.
You were monologuing, weren't you?
No.
Yes, you were.
No, I wasn't.
You were.
John.
See?
everybody back? Good. Okay, so to sum all this up rather neatly, after doing her act at a club in Gotham, our hero Zatanna is, well, attempted to be mugged in an alleyway. Needless to say, this doesn't go very well for our street thug. However, it does kind of work out okay for Zatanna, just saying. The next day, we see her on top of a building surveying her city, taking it all in, and she's also caught monologuing by John Constantine. The two have some witty banter back and forth, but are interrupted by police sirens, and after listening in on the police radio, Zatanna teleports away to the scene of crime. She, however, is unable to really do anything thanks to our lovely surprise villain, Mr. Scarface. Why do you say she's helpless? Well, Zatanna has a little thing called a fear of puppets, as in like a crippling fear of puppets. Yes, you heard it right, puppets. So she actually gets to aid in Mr. Scarface's escape and beats herself up over it for the next few days. At which point, John Constantine tells her to quit being all down in the dumps mopey and, well, has a bit of an aggressive therapy session with Zatanna and a sock puppet. But it works. It knocks Zatanna out of her funk, makes her realize how ridiculous her phobia is. She goes off to encounter Mr. Scarface again, basically gives him the whole "I'm no longer afraid of you," nya nya nya, and makes the puppet disappear, which kind of almost breaks our ventriloquist Peyton Riley, until Zatanna offers a few comforting words about how Mr. Scarface was never real, and they're going to go somewhere that can get her some help. Afterwards, Zatanna and John have a nice little witty banter back and forth again, and we find out that at one point, apparently Zatanna was a guest on Sesame Street who may or may not have vomited all over Oscar the Grouch. And that is Zatanna.
Yeah, people might be surprised by this version of the ventriloquist. So I wrote a little blurb down because this person, Peyton Riley, actually shows up it was Detective Comics number 827, March of 2007. I can't remember if this is when Dick Grayson was still Batman or if it was Bruce Wayne's Batman, but I know in issue 843, which is June 2008. So that one, it was the Bruce Wayne and Zatanna facing off with the Peyton Riley ventriloquist. And those were all written by Paul Dini. And I think this fan film pulls a lot from the Paul Dini run of Detective Comics. So that's where we sort of originate with her. And if you don't know, the ventriloquist uses a dummy Scarface. So he is a puppet who is a separate personality and the dominant one. And Scarface has the affectations and inclinations of a crime boss. So hence, when we were watching the film, you might have noticed the Italian music going on in the background when he's on. Now, Peyton, the reason she's got that white eye, her father was a mafia boss and he married her off to another. And there's all kinds of shenanigans in between. But what ultimately happens is her husband decides he's going to kill off her family, the rival. And he shoots her in the head. And she manages to survive. But during that, she witnesses the death of Wesker, who was the original ventriloquist. But she hears Scarface talking to her. And she's not sure if she's crazy or if it's real. And she decides, it doesn't matter, I'm going to form a partnership with Scarface. And that is sort of where that personality comes from. And in the issue of Paul Dini's issue that I was saying, that the Detective Comics 843, we actually do get Zatanna and Batman working together. He's in his Bruce Wayne persona for about half the issue, most of the issue. Anyway, so she does hear about what Peyton Riley's story is, and tries to help defeat her and her bad guys and Scarface and the whole 9 yards. And she does try to offer her some sympathy at that time too. So I really think they pulled a lot from that story to make this one work. Do you know where she got the relationship with Constantine? Is that something that's been more recent, the fact that they were friends? Do you know how that works?
There, I know, like, there for a while, they would go back and forth about what their relationship was. I know in the 90s for sure, they had hinted that they had been lovers at one point. And when they did Justice League Dark comics, all that, it was very well spelled out that they had a relationship at one time. But I mean, other times, like, they'll go back and be like, oh, it's kind of, their relationship is, if if they were on Facebook, their relationship status would be it's complicated. But no, it's kind of one of those, like, you get the sense like they basically were the equivalent of dating in high school, and sort of definitely hooked up, but it kind of really didn't mean anything. So, like, they just stayed friends, and they're real chummy and can go back and forth with each other like that. But they might also be kind of friends with benefits. You don't really know.
So basically, whatever the writer wants it to be.
Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't get any sexual vibes from this at all.
No,
they were friends.
The director has it on his notes on the YouTube page that where does he say? He says how did he word it?
I list them on here, and I haven't read those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, John and Zatanna have a better brother-sister rapport than together, and he's charisma as the character was an added bonus.
Okay,
because
so that's where that came from.
Yeah, apparently his original script, which he says he had completely he had written it 2 years earlier and then had to completely revamp it. His original script had Zatanna and her manager Artie, her agent Artie, instead of John Constantine, and she says, or he says that putting John in there just worked way better. It seemed to flow better on the page for his script and everything. I'm like, well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does. You need that relationship to make this click. And in the film, I mean, the rhythm between the two of them is extremely good. Their relationship, they're not always in the same shot together. In fact, some of them, I wonder if they were even filmed at the same time, especially when she's on the sofa being depressed after she let the puppet go, and he's sitting on a different couch. And I tried to see if they were ever in the same shot together, and they are not.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that, and especially the only thing even really hinting for sure that they're together is you see the sock puppet, but literally just as far as the sock goes.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be anybody on the other side of the camera.
Yeah, it could have been the cameraman.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been anybody. But you do get the two of them on the rooftop overlooking the city. Which, do you have any idea what city this actually is? I was like, it's so nice and pretty and modern. I'm like, this doesn't look like Gotham. This is supposed to take place in Gotham,
That is a very good question.
I liked it because Batman giving over superheroing in Gotham to Zatanna after reading her relationship with him in that Detective Comics run makes a little more sense than, you'd think he'd turn it over to Nightwing or something. So that actually sort of worked, that maybe he would do that she's part of his pantheon of people he's comfortable calling in to babysit Gotham when he's gone. I thought that was sweet.
Yeah, I do not see anywhere where they say where it was filmed. So
bummer. I don't know about you, but I thought the actors looked and sounded just spot on. The top hat and tails, the wand, the high boots. She looked like I would expect her to look. And Constantine's got the jacket and the cigarettes and the beard shadow and the whole 9 yards. I was like, they looked absolutely excellent. And their chemistry together, the actors, was wonderful as well. Would you agree with me there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was worried kind of going into this that the Constantine guy would be a little much because, I mean, John Constantine, to be such a simple costume and everything is really hard to pull off, or at least to me, because like some people just think they can throw on a half-done tie and an old trench coat and, that's it.
No, Heath Harper is the person who played that part. And
yes,
that made it because he had the mannerisms, the accent. I wanted to know if that was a real accent that he, does the actor really have it? Because it was just perfect. And I don't know, I'm not from England. I wouldn't know if it's perfect or faked, but it sounded real enough to me to really make it work.
It's very real for a fan film. So
I think they did a great job, like I said, with Zatanna and the costuming for her.
Yeah, I really like how they did like the quick change stuff for her, to going from street clothes to her costume and so forth. It's just cut away with the camera and come back, but it works.
What do you think about the unexpected villain that it's Scarface, and considering her stage background, the fear of puppets?
I like it. I didn't have any real experience with Peyton Riley as the ventriloquist, so that was an interesting twist for me. The fear of puppets seems unusual. I don't know if I don't know where that came from for this. If there was a comic story about Zatanna having a fear of puppets or anything.
Not that I know of, but then my knowledge of Zatanna isn't deep. I read the Paul Dini series that he did titled Zatanna. She had her own, but it's been a long time and I can't remember if this was part of it. I don't think so, but I loved it. I thought that was a sweet way of making a humorous villain, and yet he's pretty intimidating at the same time.
This is where I'll have my major low of this. It kind of goes in with the fear of puppets thing and all that. Just confronting somebody with their phobia doesn't necessarily cure their phobia. Pointing out to somebody that it is, an irrational fear. Yes, people who have phobias understand that. It doesn't make it easier to deal with. Also, similarly, when Zatanna gets rid of Mr. Scarface, and it feels like they kind of just, tie everything up in a neat little bow because they're on the last 2 pages of the story, by saying, hey, it was all in your head. Oh, yeah, I know. Okay, off to Arkham we go. It's well done in the acting. I feel like that's just kind of where the script sort of slipped up a little bit.
It didn't work for you.
Yeah, it felt just a teensiest bit too simplified.
I liked it because it kept it light.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go through big trauma.
Oh, yeah. I understand that. And that's very valid. It's just, I don't know. It seemed like, I don't know how to put it. Feels like they took it just a little too lightly, but I can understand if we had gone on probably an extra 45 seconds with it, we'd be venturing into after school special territory. So
I personally, when he made the sock puppet, I just laughed.
That has comic connections too.
Oh, it was like, oh my gosh.
Not necessarily John doing the puppet, but during the Nightfall storyline, Wesker and Mr. Scarface are separated. So Wesker has Mr. Sacco.
Yes, now that you're saying that, I remember that. Yes.
And Mr. Sacco and Mr. Scarface are eventually together on Wesker, one on one hand, one on the other, and they do not get along.
Yes, that's right. They argue. They're rivals. Oh, yeah. Now that you're saying that, it was a way to get her over, to end the story. Like you're saying, I suppose it does feel like, we rushed the ending a little bit.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm probably taking this a little too seriously because this entire thing is tongue in cheek. it's meant to be, a humorous fan film.
I thought they did a great job with the backwards words because let's see, Mariah Mason. I actually understood a couple, like when she said dizzy, when she said sleep.
Yeah, and according to the notes on the YouTube page, she is actually saying the backwards words. Like it's not an audio trick. She
had to learn how to do that and not miss a beat.
Right.
That was good work to me. I really appreciate how they did that. What do you think about adding the special effects? I was very pleased that they weren't overused.
Yeah. Her magical special effects are really good. The gunshots being deflected are less so.
Really? You didn't like that? I thought that was effective.
They're not bad, but they're not, I don't know. They seem just the slightest bit too pixelated.
Okay.
But again, that's me nitpicking.
And the smoke, I thought they did, because they use that one frequently as far as for her to teleport.
Yeah, now that was good. That was very
so that
good.
Worked better for you. I figured it was more like the bullets are hitting some sort of shield, and we're seeing the hit of the shield. That's what we're seing, rather than the actual bullet deflecting.
Yeah.
So I appreciated Zatanna showing heart, as well as, she's not just humorously doing this when she gets rid of the puppet at the end. She truly seems to want to offer Peyton help.
Yeah, it's one of those, you can't, I can't help you while something is in the way.
I just found it made her charming because we had some humor, we had the setback, we had okay, now I'm ready to go try again. You get up back on the horse and go try again. And then when that works out, she still takes the time to be empathetic. I thought that gave her a lot of depth.
And I was afraid you were going to turn into Jason here. It's got humor, heart, spectacle, and art.
No, I'm not going to go that detailed. He can save that one. Let's see if I have any other notes on here. Just that I really enjoyed it. I think it was fun. I loved how they used the Sesame Street music at the end, the jazz version.
Yes, that's hilarious.
I thought that was just wonderful. I had very little to complain about this one. Sometimes the Zatanna actress, Mariah here, was a little stiff, just a little bit, but it wasn't enough to take me out of what was happening. I still believed her, if that makes sense. I just sort of was like, yeah, it's a fan film, not a real film. And I just sort of went with it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I get nitpicky, but it's because we're doing a podcast about, looking at the fan films. I gotta kind of take the bad with the good. As much as I enjoy it, I gotta point out a few things here and there.
Sure.
And I had to make sure and go through the credits because I wasn't sure if our Peyton Riley actress was actually a ventriloquist or not. But no, our director does the voice of Scarface.
Assuming the director isn't 5 people based on the name.
Right. Yeah, assuming the director isn't, just Della Atherton pretending to be Chris, not a real Notaro. Chris, please listen to this show and write in and tell us how to say your name.
Well, I'm assuming people can see why I picked this because I just love it to death. I thought it was wonderful.
Oh, yeah, this was definitely a good pick, and I'm glad you directed me to it.
Yeah, and, the technical skills are there. The lighting, the editing, the music in the background, the sound of the voices are clear. We don't have weird echoes or anything. That part is extremely clean. So it comes off really well because we don't have those little things that I normally find and nitpick about. I think they did a great job.
Okay, I will say, did you notice the light switch cover in Zatanna's house?
No, what was it?
It is an Action Comics #1 light switch cover.
No, really?
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh, that's great.
And if I am remembering correctly, let me just double check. Yes, that is indeed an Easter egg.
Oh, is it?
Yes, because aside from Superman, do you know who else first appeared in Action Comics #1?
I do not.
A little dude named Zatanna the Magician.
Oh, really? Oh, well, now it makes more sense then. That is a deep dive.
I kept thinking it was just something cute, and then I'm like, wait a minute.
Isn't that
I know
clever?
trivia, I think. Let me confirm. Yes.
Oh, my. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of backgrounds in this for me to get lost in.
No, you pretty much have, the alleyway, the rooftop, wherever Scarface is at the first time, Zatanna's house, and then a different alleyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thugs in the alleyway in the bright light was a little awkward.
Yeah, but I can understand, you film when you can.
Mm-hmm. And then they don't have to worry about lighting so much, because the first scene in the alley, that was fun too. And that's another one where I don't know if they were in that together or if it was 2 different times shooting that, because that's just edited back and forth as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, and then he goes and throws up, and she decides at that point, maybe he is sorry.
Yeah. Now, again, I'll nitpick. Maybe he threw up just a little too long, but...
Oh.
But,
It's played for laughs.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole sequence is played for laughs.
It's just the disgust on her face that sells it, though.
I just love, she's like, oh, well, maybe he's sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to need you to get up and... Okay, yeah, take a minute.
I just think there's, so much in this that was the right kind of humor for me. It just hit me just right.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely not a bad fan film in any way. As I said, I'm nitpicking.
The throwing up on Oscar the Grouch, that she might have had a panic attack on Sesame Street. Oh, my God, that was just hysterical.
Yeah, and that kind of, brings it all full circle to the guy throwing up in the alley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. I didn't think about that one. I just figured, stage performer, fear of puppets. How interesting was that? I did like in the very beginning when they were doing like the credit at the beginning, the card at the beginning that tells you what it is. And you hear her saying, "Thank you, Gotham," doing the end of her act and all the applauding and stuff. I thought that was a nice touch.
Oh, yeah, that was very nice.
All right. I think I've gushed enough about this one.
I was going to say, I don't think I have any extra notes on that one. So.
No. I just think this was cleverly done.
So seriously, folks, go out, give it a watch. You really should have already. But, if you're one of those people that listens to the whole thing and then checks the show notes, first of all, shame on you. Second, get to the show notes and watch this fan film, because Laurel and I both really enjoy it.
All right, Clinton. I'm afraid I'm going to have to do a last act for you.
Okay, well, before you do that, you could let people know where else they can find you out on the internet and all that stuff.
You can find me over on the Right On Network. That's WRIGHT, Right On Network. I'm on Feathers and Foes, a Birds of Prey podcast, and we are currently having a really good Birds of Prey coming out right now. Kelly Thompson is rocking on that comic, so I can't recommend that enough. And then you can come listen to us. And I'm also on the Huntress podcast, so you can catch us on there.
Okay, so thank you for joining me, Laurel. And yeah, I'm ready to see this one act.
One last act. Well, the black smoke and the teleporting, I can do that too.
But you're going to come back, right?
I'm gone.
But you're going to come back, right? She ain't coming back. All right, this is where we take a break and come back and listen to some listener feedback.
I'm scaling this wall just as easily as I can walk. My fingers alone are adhering, supporting me.
The Amazing Spider-Man, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, has conquered every medium, from newspaper strips to the silver screen. But he began his life in a pulp periodical destined for cancellation. Let's explore these beginnings together. The Amazing Spider-Man from the very beginning. A brand new podcast on Spotify.
There's some sort of danger here, but what?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for sticking with me. Clearly, Laurel is not coming back. So I guess we'll just continue on with the feedback portion of the show. This is, of course, the part where I get to give all the love back to you folks who showed us love on the internets. And as a reminder, last episode was In Blackest Night Out with my guest Delvin Williams. And thanks to certain social media's new policies, it's harder to see all the people who shared, and all that stuff. So if I missed some names, I'm so sorry. Please do let me know, and I will definitely correct it on the future episodes. So from what I could see, we got some social media love from Matt Poisson, A World on Fire, Delvin Williams, Christados, BZ Cullens, the writer and director of said fan film, Comic Foil, Serpy Matt, and Chris from Professor Frenzy. And we did get some feedback on this episode. BZ Cullens himself weighed in. He says, "It's like your prophets, gentlemen. There will be a solo Shira project. You will see John as a dad." And this film picks up from the last, which he gave a link to a crowdfunding for one called Just Lunch. It's no longer a trilogy, it's now a series. Same timeline. BZ, you could not have made two podcasters any happier. That is incredible, sir. We also got a comment from Serpy Matt. He says, "Fun listen. I haven't watched many fan films other than Friday the 13th ones. This felt like it could have been a backup story in an annual. Just a fun day off to give us some insight into the characters." Serpy Matt, you are not wrong, sir. That definitely is what it felt like, and I enjoyed that comparison. I always enjoyed those backup stories. Friday the 13th fan films, you say? You fancying a trip down to the basement there, Matt? Are you throwing your hat in the ring? Because, just saying. And I was reminded we have some YouTube videos of this now. And guess what? We got comments on it. Walter Wimb STJ says, "Great review. Thank you for your USAF service from a retired U.S. Air Force Master Sergeant." Delvin, sir, Master Sergeant is thanking you for your service. That's pretty cool. And we also got a comment from I Am Ali Rodriguez. The lady that played Jessica in the fan film. She says, "Thank you, Clinton and Delvin, for the wonderful review." That fills my heart that these people are still out here checking on us. Well, not us, but, checking on what they put out in the world to see if anybody's still... From one content creator to another, Ali, thank you. All right, and that is it for the feedback. As always, you can leave feedback on any of the socials. You can, especially on the YouTube, apparently. You can write in to contact@longboxcrusade.com, and Pat, Jared, somebody will read it and probably eventually send it down to me somehow. And I do want to give a quick shout out to all the Crusader Club members. Thank you. You are what helped make all of these shows on the network possible, even the infrequent ones like mine. So, once again, I will still be down here in the basement, and hope you will join me again for another Fan Film Friday.
Today you can take your telephone, your cell phone. You can make a movie on that. And if it's a really cool movie that's funny and it's dramatic or whatever, you can post it on YouTube.
If you want to make films and you want to tell stories, you can do it.
After all art is experience.
But if you're obsessed with film and you love to tell stories and you love working in that medium, then that'll give you the strength to be persistent.
That thing is just so goofy when we do that.
Oh, yeah. But people love it. All right. We can stop Audacity.
stop Audacity now? Okay. Oh, good Lord.